Shopify is the main platform so many e-commerce store owners use, but exactly what do we do when Shopify starts to go down the rabbit hole? So 2020 has been a very big eventful year for a lot of e-commerce store owners, for just the economy is general. For those of you that live in the United States, you know that the economy has been going to trash basically since the beginning of 2022, and things really took a bad turn for us Shopify store owners, or just us e-commerce store owners, in the recent time periods, basically in the middle of 2022 when Shopify announced one of its biggest announcements. And just doing a quick Google search for that, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So it's this big bolded red little link right here which says Shopify says it will lay off 10% of workers. That's right, around 10% of the people that work at Shopify have already lost their jobs. And this is really a big news because this was the second quarter of the year in 2022 when the GDP, which basically calculates how healthy the economy is, was a negative, basically pushing the entire US economy into a recession. But how does this really affect us e-commerce store owners, especially those that currently use Shopify? Now, this video is going to be actually divided into two parts. The first part will be more about how this affects Shopify, and then the second part will more be about how those things that affect Shopify will then in turn affect us e-commerce store owners. But let's start off with some of the basics. So I have this CNBC news article pulled up on my screen which goes into detail a lot more of the things which I'm actually just talking about. So first things first, this Wednesday, so July 27th, depends when you're watching this video, but on Wednesday of July 27th, Shopify announced for the second time, basically the second quarter, that they had missed the earnings that they were expected to hit. So these big businesses, what you want to understand is they have certain numbers and metrics which they kind of live by and which they kind of aim at. So this revenue number which they're talking about, the earnings, is something they were completely off by in the second quarter. Hence, this is why it kind of led them into firing so many people all at once. But in addition, this is kind of the scary thing, the company warned that here, as it says, inflation and rising interest rates would weigh on consumer spending for the remainder of 2022. So in simple words, what Shopify is saying is that all of us e-commerce store owners are essentially about get. And again, it's no surprise that after these two things happened initially, Shopify just decided that, you know what, it's over. We're not gonna keep these people on board because it's just too much of a hassle for us. So the platform that we use to basically run our whole e-commerce brand decided to kind of get rid of 1/10 of their overall workforce. So this is really a big thing for us because again, this tells us which direction Shopify itself is starting to go in, and it's going to impact us Shopify store owners again in the long term. So I'm just going to summarize really quick what the other part of that article mentioned. So basically what it is talking about is that the second half of the year, basically towards the end, Q3, Q4, according to Shopify, will end up being completely different than what we have seen so far when it comes to e-commerce, and it's going to be more of sort of like a transition year. So what this means essentially is that it's going to be a reset back to the levels of pre-2020, because everybody and their dog basically made a lot of money in 2020 because everybody was at home due to whatever was going on in the world at that time period, just buying away. So now with the economy worsening, we're gonna hit those levels that we were at prior to 2020, and it could potentially, according to Shopify, be much worse for us e-commerce store owners. So this is kind of dangerous for Shopify itself. And the one main reason why this is kind of dangerous is because this could lead to them wanting to make money for their own needs through different measures. So essentially what I'm talking about is that one way they could kind of make more money during this rough time period is actually by charging us Shopify store owners more fees. They could do this by charging us more in terms of the Shopify payment side of things, or they could start taking certain percentages or fees from the Shopify app side of things. There's a whole bunch of different ways they could actually start taking money from us in that portion. In addition, what Shopify could also start doing is that they could actually start cutting out additional features. So there's a whole lot of additional features which they let us Shopify store owners use at their own expense. One that could be completely cut off, for example, is the Shopify free trial. So right from the beginning, they may want us to just start paying for Shopify in the beginning. And of course, that's really more towards those people that want to start a brand new Shopify store. But that's just an example. There's a lot of other things that could go wrong in the process. But in addition, one thing that kind of popped out to me from that article which it mentioned was whatever the low priority areas are and the non-core activities, Shopify is going to start reducing the spend in there significantly. So again, this means whatever basically Shopify thinks is essential, whatever doesn't lead to them growing, they're not going to spend as much time, money, energy, effort into making those things better. So those things could again fall under what helps us Shopify store owners, and that might not necessarily be a good thing for us in the long term. So whatever essentially is an activity which has a lower short payback period, that is something Shopify is just going to spend less and less into. So this kind of brings me into the final point as to why this could be dangerous for Shopify itself, and that is just because they would want to, again, going back to the main topic I mentioned, earn more money in the shorter time frame. One way they could do this is by just basically increasing the payments that Shopify store owners pay for their fees. So the basic plan, the Shopify Plus plan, whatever we currently pay for it, they could end up actually increasing the pay that we have to pay for those plans. So again, very minuscule things, but they make a huge impact, and that too a negative impact on us e-commerce store owners. So these are just general things that Shopify right now is facing, which could kind of trickle down into us having to pay for these. But essentially, what does this mean for us e-commerce store owners in the long term? First things first, these things are something we should also be analyzing very closely and also be looking into doing ourselves. So because Shopify itself is lowering the expenses, maybe we should also as e-commerce store owners be looking into lowering our expenses. And no, this does not give you a free pass to spend less money on advertising. In fact, you should be spending the same amount of money or even more money when it comes to ads, and that's simply because ads is not a non-essential thing. It's an essential thing to continue growing your e-commerce brand, to continue getting eyeballs on your e-commerce brand. So there's really no exception for you when it comes to ads. It's essentially needed for you to continue driving business forward. So forget about ads, but there are other non-essential things which you should definitely look into lowering the cost for. Things that have to do more with customer service side of things, or just the fancy nitty-gritty details which you personally or some other team member could do without you needing to pay a big amount of money for. Now, when it comes to ads, again, a lot of my e-commerce brands are still sticking with having someone of an expert, in this case me, continue to handle their ads. But if you're doing $30,000 or more per month in revenue and you need a little bit of extra help during this rough time period, continuing to scale your brand to the next level, continuing to get more sales, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can make it happen and to see how I can personally help you get through this rough time period. But in addition to this, what a lot of e-commerce store owners should do is they should focus their entire brand only on those sources of traffic which are getting them more payback in a shorter period of time. So if, for example, you're noticing 80% of your sales come from Google ads, 20% from Facebook, and Facebook ads is really not that profitable, you want to maybe just cut off Facebook completely for the time being and just full on go all in with Google ads. And that's only because Google is the one getting you sales. Just go all in on Google. That's essentially what Shopify itself is doing. But in addition to that, look into analyzing and troubleshooting your ads even more. This is the perfect time period for you to really, again, as I mentioned, focus on what's working and what's not working. Go in with a deep analysis mentality and really troubleshoot, see what's not working, see why it's not working, and either make it better, or if it's not getting better, cut it off completely. You need to be spending money on, again, what's already driving you majority of the results. But again, making your way kind of into more of the event side of things, depending on when you're watching this video, take advantage of special events, special occasions. So Q3, Q4 is coming up right now when I'm recording this video. At least you want to definitely take advantage of that. Make more sales related to Christmas, makes more sales related to Thanksgiving. Just take advantage of these events as much as you can, because again, the things are starting to go downhill more and more here right now in 2022. You want to take advantage of the events to get those extra sales, those extra profits as much as you can. But most important of all, add products which people need right now. Think of your store as a store which people cannot live without. So right now, ask yourself, do the products you have people want, or do the products you have people need? There is a very big distinction between both of those. If people just want your product, they can easily unwant your product. So that means you're gonna be one of those people that just goes downhill from here on. But if people need your products, it doesn't matter if it's a recession or not, people will still come onto your website and people will still buy from you. So again, kind of just focus on the second side of this equation. Make sure to add products which people actually need during this time period. But that's essentially what you really need to be doing during this time period. Essentially, just follow Shopify's footsteps, just keep your eye out, and of course, don't give up during this time period. But make those kind of pivots that you need in order to keep your business going. I know I am doing it for my own e-commerce brands, and I'm helping a lot of my clients, e-commerce brands under my Google Ads agency, do the same as well. But again, if you're doing 30K or more per month, you need a little bit of extra help, go on my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can pivot your business and make it even better than before. But if you found any type of value in this video, take just 2 quick seconds, destroy that like button down below, destroy that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.